let's talk about those moments when you feel completely hijacked by stress or anxiety or just any difficult emotion. We're going to break down a simple but seriously powerful technique to handle it. It's called the REACT method, and it's basically your game plan for finding calm right in the middle of an emotional storm. And isn't that the truth? I mean, we've all been there, right? Feeling like you're totally at the mercy of your own feelings. Like they're this rogue wave just crashing over you, causing all this pain. It can feel like you're a prisoner in your own mind. But here's a thought, and it might sound a little weird at first. What if the emotions themselves aren't the real problem? What if the real source of the suffering is our constant, exhausting war against them? What if we've been going about this all wrong? Okay, so first, let's dig into this idea of an emotional storm. To really get why we tend to overreact, we need to completely reframe how we think about emotions. We need to see them not as something we create, but as something that happens to us, kind of like a force of nature. I mean, think about it. You don't wake up and decide to feel a sudden wave of panic any more than you decide it's going to rain today. These feelings, they just show up. Sometimes it's a little drizzle of irritation, and other times it's a full-blown emotional hurricane. And this is where the problem really hits home. Imagine running out into a massive thunderstorm, shaking your fist at the sky, and demanding that it stop. It's ridiculous, right? You just end up soaked, worn out, and probably covered in mud. The storm doesn't care. Fighting your emotions is exactly the same. It's totally pointless, and it just makes a bigger mess. So if we can't fight the storm, then what are we supposed to do? Well, let's try a different way of looking at this. We need a new metaphor, one that actually gives us some power back. Okay, I want you to actually picture this with me for a second. Imagine your mind is a farm. It's your own personal plot of land that you have to manage, care for, and grow things on. And on this farm, all the things you're working toward, your goals, your ambitions, your values, the person you're trying to become, those are the crops you're planting and carefully trying to grow. And then you see it, that big, dark cloud rolling in, and it's coming fast. That's the sudden surge of anger or fear or sadness, and it feels like it's threatening to just flatten everything you've worked so hard to build. But here's where the farmer's wisdom comes in. See, any good farmer knows you need both sunshine and rain for things to grow. And in the same way, some of our emotions, even tough ones, can be useful. The catch is, you don't control the weather. A wise farmer doesn't run out and fight the storm. They secure the barn, they take shelter, and they let it pass, knowing that it always, always will. And that is where the REACT method comes in. This is your shelter. This is the practical step-by-step barn you can run into when that emotional storm hits your farm. The acronym is super simple, REACT. First, you reduce your breathing. Then you elaborate on what you're feeling. Next, and this is a big one, you accept it. Then you center yourself, and last, you thank the emotion. So let's break that down. So here's how it all works. Reduce is about taking a few slow, deep breaths. This isn't just a gimmick. It physically calms down your body's fight or flight response. Elaborate is just naming it. Okay, this is anxiety. Just saying it out loud creates a little bit of mental space. Now, accept. This one's the game changer. You just let it be there. You don't fight it, but you don't have to agree with it either. Center is about taking a step back and asking your best self, all right, how do I actually want to handle this situation? And finally, thank might sound weird, but it's about being grateful for the chance to practice this, which brings a real sense of peace. So yeah, the method is incredibly practical, but there's actually something much deeper happening under the hood here. When you use REACT, you're literally rewiring your relationship with your own mind. It all boils down to this idea called metacognition. It sounds kind of fancy, right? But honestly, it's super simple. It's just the ability to think about what you're thinking, to observe your own feelings from a distance instead of being totally swallowed by them. See, when you just name and accept an emotion, when you say, this is anger, you're stepping outside of it for a split second. In that moment, you're not the anger. You're the person who is noticing the anger. And that tiny little shift, that's where all your power is. You go from being a boat tossed around in the storm to being the lighthouse keeper, watching it safely from the shore. And this really is the massive difference between reacting and responding. When we're just reacting, we're a slave to the emotion. Our ego's in the driver's seat, and our behavior is on autopilot. But when we learn to respond, we realize we have a choice. We see our ego for what it is, just an alarm system, not our boss. And suddenly, our behavior becomes intentional, guided by our values, not just our feelings. And this brings us to one final, really beautiful shift in how we see all this. What if instead of just bracing for a storm, we could learn to treat our emotions like, well, like a visitor? I just love this idea. It's such a gentler way to think about it. An emotion isn't an enemy you have to fight off. It's more like a messenger, maybe a well-meaning neighbor knocking on your door to give you a heads up about something. So what does a good host do? You don't have to love your neighbor, but you're polite. You let them in for a minute, you listen. Because here's the secret about these emotional messengers. They will not leave until they feel like their message has been heard. If you argue with them or try to slam the door in their face, they're just going to knock louder and stay a whole lot longer. And here's the really crucial point. Every single emotion, at its core, has a useful message. That anxiety might be warning you that you're unprepared for something important. That anger might be telling you that a boundary has been crossed. That sadness is pointing to something you've lost that really, truly mattered to you. These are not random glitches. They are signals. And that, really, is the question to leave you with. Your emotions are trying to tell you something incredibly important about your life, your values, and your world. They are knocking on your door. The only question left is, are you going to answer it and listen?